Western civilization continued to implode as the old paradigm ceased to function. The old regime in the US and Europe is collapsing in a way that is now becoming obvious even to the most brainwashed and illiterated Westerners. This collapse ultimately stems from the social instability caused by extreme concentration of wealth in the hands of a very small clique of closely interbred oligarchs now known as the Khazarian Mafia. Fortunately, a revolution has begun that will soon liberate the West and the rest of humanity from these self-appointed, war-loving social engineers. For now, though there are multiple signs of a very dangerous and chaotic summer as the old system collapsed. In the U.S., the undeclared civil war that has been raging since the election of Donald Trump may lead to nuclear terror inside the U.S. by Khazarian mafiosi, say the CIA and other sources. If this happens, retaliation will wipe up the Khazarian strongholds in Israel, Switzerland, Italy, and elsewhere, Pentagon sources say. One of many signs of how open the warfare within the U.S. government has become came last week when Trump retweeted about the Russian witch hunt, knowing that, with all of this bias, lying, and hate by the investigators, people want the investigators investigated. Much more will come out. This was followed within an hour by a tweet from former CIA head John Brennan saying, "Your fear of exposure is palpable. You're desperate even more so, and calling for a coup d'etat against Trump, something that in normal times would lead to his arrest for treason." Then we have one of Canada's leading news magazines openly and only half-jokingly calling for an invasion of the U.S. since the U.S. has become a fourth state. We also have the head of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, saying in a speech in London that it is not written in stone that the transatlantic bond will survive forever. We could go on and on pointing out signs of a major undeclared civil war in the West, but the media is so saturated with this that doing so would become redundantly repetitive again and again. The reason for this extreme high tension is impending military action on several fronts by both the U.S. and Russian armed forces that could depose several governments and change world maps, says the Pentagon, CIA, FSB, and other sources. Big military action is most likely in the Ukraine, Israel, and Mexico, as part of a secret deal between the Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Chinese President Xi Jinping, the sources say. The Russians are expected to make military moves against both Israel and Ukraine, and this is likely to lead the regime change in both of these Khazarian Raj states, they say. The Russian TV show, shown in the link below, covers a war crimes trial held against the illegally installed regime in the Ukraine. The CIA sources say that it is likely to be a prelude to a U.S. sanctioned Russian-engineered regime change in the Ukraine and annexations of Russian-speaking eastern province of the Ukraine. One of the main architects of the illegal regime change in the Ukraine, Victoria Nuland, told the Senate Intelligence Committee on Wednesday. Other countries and malign actors are now adapting and improving the Russia's methodology, notably including China. This is a sign that Khazarian war criminal Nuland sees Russia, China, and the Trump regime as being allies. The other big Russian move has already started with Russia bombing with American permissions last week of Israeli proxies near the Golan Heights. U.S. State Department lackeys promised that the U.S. would defeat Israel, but they do not control the U.S. military, who are sick and tired of Israeli antics. So now the Israelis are freaking out and saying, "Where are our American slave soldiers?" This is what a Pentagon source had to say about the situation. The U.S. withdrew from the UN Human Rights Council enables anti-Israel measures to pass unopposed to further isolate and sanction the Zionist state. The sooner the Israeli people throw out their Khazarian Satan worshippers' yoke, the better for them. The U.S. military, meanwhile, appears to be preparing for some sort of military move against Mexico. Although an outright invasion is unlikely, instead, the U.S. military is taking over control of the border with Mexico, as Trump tweets. "We cannot allow all these people to invade our country. When somebody comes in, we must immediately, with no judges or court cases, bring them back from where they came. As Mexico becomes a flooded narco state and Colombia's crackdown on FARC generates more refugees, military lawyers are sent to help the Department of Justice prosecute illegal aliens at the border, is what Pentagon sources had to say about the situation. The Khazarian mob is also freaking out about the refugee crisis because there are growing signs that unaccompanied refugee girls have gone missing and will probably traffic it. On this front, more and more high-level exposure of Khazarian sex crime continues. Major Hillary Clinton, daughter Claire Brofman, is to be indicted of NXA VM sex card trafficking, Pentagon and other sources say. Also, whistleblowers are coming forth claiming New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is covering sex crimes against children. These arrests are taking place on the basis of evidence gathered through the arrest of thousands of lower-ranking child abusers, Pentagon sources say. Meanwhile, in Europe, the Khazarian-appointed leaders of France and Germany are on the brink of being overthrown as part of a socially immune reaction to the influx of millions of young male refugees from Muslim countries. Khazarian bloodline ruler Angela Merkel of Germany and Rothschild slave President Emmanuel Macron of France faced open revolt from 12 other EU countries when they proposed strengthening centralized Khazarian control of the EU last week. Macron then doubled up by calling for financial sanctions against EU countries that refused to take in refugees. Instead, Pentagon and CIA sources say that it will happen with the regime change in France and Germany, in a major campaign to remove the mostly male Muslim illegal immigrants from Europe. Of course, as readers of this newspaper have pointed out, the refugees are arriving in large part because of the mass murder and mayhem being caused in their home countries by the Khazarian mafia. So for sure, any real solution to this crisis will require the removal of a large regimes in Israel and an end to their insane Armageddon project. Hopefully, the Russians will take place that soon. Already in the Middle East, true peace-loving Muslims have begun to take action against the pseudo-Muslim extremists who were created and financed by the Khazarians. Of course, the Khazarians, who are literally fighting for their lives as the mass murder and war crimes are revealed, will try to create as much mayhem and death as possible before they move from power, according to CIA, Pentagon, and other sources. For this reason, an ongoing secret effort to remove the Khazarian control of the world's financial system is of the utmost importance. It has now been made clear that the Khazarian gained this control by illegally using stolen Asian royal gold. The rightful owners are now claiming back the gold, as the BIS as well as other central banks have been put on notice. On this end, there are secret negotiations taking place between the Pentagon, Asian secret societies, Asian royal families, the Chinese government, the Russian government, and etc. There is much we cannot reveal, but we can say that there is general agreement on the need to create a Western future planning agency to complement the Chinese-led OBOR initiative. This is what a Western secret space program source had to say about the situation. Lots of whistleblowers are now coming forward to spill the beans, thinking they are going to get off easy. Nope, not going to happen. The magnifications of money energy that cause harm and death is in violation of galactic law. When they bombed Japan in 1945, it affected other worlds. This is why Earth is on lockdown. It got real serious when they tried to put nukes in space. The Challenger blow-up was done to prevent that from happening. Israel did that one, but the Galactics took everyone off before it blew up. This is coming to a head real fast, I feel. Pentagon sources for the part say. Trump created Space Force to unleash a secret space program and its suggested technology to benefit humankind with things like anti-gravity, free energy, holographic medbeds, life extension, teleportation, clotting, replicators, and etc. We hope this space stuff is true, but even if it's not, if Khazarian financial control is ended, many trillions of dollars will be released for projects to turn the deserts green replenish the ocean with fish, explore the universe, and etc.